So my name is Dylan Hume, and I work closely with Bass. I have been for approximately 4 years now, and we've been really focused more on the AP side for that time, and built up to now it's around 60 customers that we have on the solution. So it's pretty awesome, the success we've seen and the adoption rate for Bass customers, and looking forward to speaking with more of you in the future after this session and finding out if it's a right fit for your organizations. But I'm here with Dan today, and I'm going to let him do a quick introduction as he's supporting me today on this presentation.
Thank you, Dylan. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dan. I'm the Business Development Rep and Inside Sales Manager for Bass. We started an endeavor recently with Dylan and other folks to reach out to our customers and our partners and really start to drive educational sessions such as this, but in a smaller scale and more, I guess, designed in terms of a customer focused and their needs. So over the last actually doing webinars with our customers and showcasing in terms of the benefits to certain solutions. So what we're going to be doing today is Dylan's going to be walking to two specific customers that we've done recent webinars for, and I'll be helping through that customer journey. And that being said, if you happen to see me or my team reach out to you and inviting you to any of these future webinars, please reach out and come join us. You'll see in terms of the experience and what we do in terms of educating our customers. And we probably have already been reached because if you're here at Bass Connect, you were touched by either your account manager or somebody on my team. So really looking forward to walking you through the journey today with Dylan.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Great. Well, I only have two hands, and just a quick touch on the agenda here. We're going to be spending most time on number one, which is the customer stories. So that'll be happening right after this slide. But I will spend a few minutes at the end just talking about the solution more generally and the benefits you can expect to receive with it before getting into some Q&A. I do want to hear from some of you today, so write down your questions and let us know if you have any. Just a side note, I did want to say that we do integrate with both Sage 300 and Intacct, even though we're presenting today in the Sage 300 channel. So if you ever are on Sage 300 and expecting to move down the road, we can always swap you over to the new interface whenever that comes. Anyway, let's get started. So the first customer we talked to this year was Ontario Trucking Association, and it was a great experience. They were actually a customer of Dan's back when he was on the account management side. So he was actually part of this deal and was the one that interviewed them during the webinar itself. So that webinar was called AP Automation Keeps Ontario Trucking Association Moving, and it is available on demand. So if you want to see the full webinar or the written case study we put together, that's both available for you after the session today. So come check it out. Without further ado, I do have my questions on a notepad here just to make sure that I catch all of it. So, Dan, with regards to this case study, you were close to it. What were some of the key pain points that this customer was experiencing? And how did you go about identifying the root cause of those and ultimately the solutions that you wanted to implement?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was working with Joanne at the Ontario Trucking Association, and she was suffering from a shortage of staff. So they were in dire need in regards to looking at ways that they can streamline their manual processes. She was very focused on finding a solution which was automated and reduced the need for keeping a paper trail. One of the things that you'll see that Joanne mentions in her video is just the amount of storage that they had in regards to the boxes that they had to file with the paperwork. So over the course of having to keep this paperwork for a 7-year audit trail, this was definitely something that she was looking at limiting and reducing.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm sure you looked at more than one solution when going through this process, but what made Sage AP Automation stand out for not just you, but the customer?
Yeah, one of the key points that Joanne and the OT team was looking at was simply a turnkey solution. They weren't very technical at the time. They didn't want to get their hands dirty. They were looking for somebody that could come in and go from bolts to nuts in getting that solution in place. The other thing that was very important too is in regards to the selling point of the implementation was how speedy that we can do it at the time that we were projecting our timelines. And then when you include that with the price point, it was a no-brainer at the time for OTA.
Thanks. And OTA, I remember from talking with Joanne that she immediately saw benefit after implementing this solution. And Well, I guess what are some of the key wins that you would say they experienced in pretty short order after going through that, what was a quick implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the team itself, the biggest win was just simply the staff. So in terms of freeing up resources so that they can concentrate on other things. The amount of time that they were spending on the AP process and the manual, I guess you could say, work that was to be done, when we implemented Quadient, we saw a huge ability for them to allocate those resources to other areas so that they can focus on their customers.
Great, yeah, and it's great they were experiencing those kind of gains, but oftentimes when you're implementing an accounts payable solution or any solution for that matter, you're always judged on the quantifiable ROI that you're going to get out of it at the end of the day. But with OTA, what were some of the how were some of these improved processes affecting OTA's overall company culture and some of the soft costs or soft benefits that they got out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things they were very, at the time, hesitant in regards to the technological advances and the way that we could try and excel them in terms of being automated. At the time, though, what we noticed was when they actually saw the implementation of Quadient and what was able to be done in reducing their staff and the speed and efficiency that they got, they were more open in regards to looking at other solutions to get away from anything manual to go to automated. So that was a huge win, and obviously something that we've explored further with them so that we can get away from manual processes.
Yeah, great. We can talk a lot, but why don't we hear from Joanne directly here? We got a video that...
That time we were faced with a staff shrinkage as well as like the budgeting. And I felt for many years that there should be better way to manage our accounting and particularly the payables. Selena had mentioned all the papers and all that stuff, and we had those. We have to spend so much money in storage because you have to maintain them for 7 years. We have boxes and boxes of backup that, again, some of them are in good place and some were misfiled. So it's just crazy. And during audit, it's just more time consuming for my auditors to try and find backup. And if they were misfiled, you spend so like a day or two to try and find an invoice. So, like at that point, I just said, okay, that's enough. I think we have to find a better solution to manage our time, to manage my people's time, and save money. We started with the proposal. Once the proposal was accepted, like it took a day to have them loaded in a server, a day for training. We were up and running, I would say, in like 3 or 4 days tops. Like excellent. Easy. The time that my staff has saved, having the AP automation in place, it just saved us so much time. My spend on record keeping is almost down to like $200 a month, like from thousands of dollars each month, and no more filing. It's online, and it helped us a lot during the pandemic. We were ahead of the game. My auditors, they love it. So they now love it. They have the time to manage other things that they have to manage. I found that Sage APA or Quadient now is the solution that we were looking for. It's simple. The installation process was great. The implementation, it was short. To learn it is so quick. And for it being able to connect with our general ledger and our accounts, accounts receivable and accounts payable, everything to do with accounting. It was just, for me, that's the best solution. It was seamless.
Thank you, Joanne, for those kind words. She couldn't be here today. Same with the next one we've got going, which is the Boys and Girls Club of Okanagan. It's another one that went really well. We actually just did this webinar last month with Boys and Girls Club, and that also is available on demand. We do have another short video from that webinar that will give you that sneak peek, but you can always check it out, as well as the written case study, which is going to be done this week, they promised me. But with regards to this organization and the process that they went through, I think most of you understand what Boys and Girls Club does for children and families and communities, but maybe not how they actually, not a full view of how they do it. And Dan, I want to ask specifically around that, and how did the way that Boys and Girls Club of the Okanagan operate create challenges and ultimately lead to their finance team seeking out a solution with Sage AP Automation?
Absolutely. So Patty had a purchase order system in place as well as an approval process for expenditures. The difference is that a lot of her expenditures were not even in the same city that they were initiated. So they had people that were tracking down these paper trails to try and figure out who initiated what and how are they going to accomplish that in terms of their processes. So they had one accounts payable employee who was spending more than 50% of her time tracking down that paperwork. This led Patty and the team to seek a solution which would streamline the process and enhance the entire organization.
Yeah, and they experienced, they're still fresh with the solution. It's only been a couple months or 3 months since they went live, and they have already seen some really big improvements though. Dan, can you tell everyone about what they're really excited about at this point with regards to the solution?
Yeah, much like the Ontario Trucking Association, it's time saved for your employees. It's simply looking and seeing in terms of what other tasks that you can provide them, rather than tracking down the manual process that they might be fighting with now. So that's something that we're definitely looking at and that they're doing to free up the time within their finance department.
Yeah, great. Before we jump into that next video, I think we all understand how API automation will actually impact the finance team, automating a lot of that manual work. We have a pretty good idea how it's going to impact an organization, but we don't always get the opportunity to see how these type of AP processes will impact an organization and create meaningful impact in the world that they operate. With regards to Boys and Girls Club, can you just speak briefly about how they've accomplished that type of benefit?
Absolutely. In this particular case, the accounts payable employee was spending up towards 20 hours a week. So basically, she had 2 days that she could free up. And what they did is they took that time, and then now she was engaging in regards to her vendors. So building better relationships. So it was a key change for them and something that they absolutely love in regards to building those relationships and partnerships now within their internal team.
Yeah, and one of the big things too for them was the fact they had such a decentralized approval workflow. So they had hundreds of different people in different divisions and areas within British Columbia and even beyond that had to be involved in this approval. So having our system that had unlimited entities, first of all, but unlimited user access so that they could bring anyone into the approval workflows that needed to be there, and allow them to easily go on their phone, do their approvals on the way to work, on transit, or wherever they were at that time, and get back to changing the lives of families and the things that they were responsible for in their actual day job, and not be bogged down by their accounts payable approvals and someone hounding them daily. So it was really impactful, and I can't wait for you to hear it from Joanne herself.
And so some of the challenges that we faced was we had a good system in place. Like we used a purchase order system, the old 3-part manual purchase orders. And then we had an approval authority matrix, an expenditure authority matrix. And so all of our program staff and all of the locations would do up POs and to initiate the purchase. And then what would happen is those had to be approved. And a lot of times the approvers, based on our expenditure authorities, may not have even been in the same city as the people wanting to do the purchasing. And so those manual POs were trucking their way around the Okanagan Valley through courier, and people having to drive them up to different places or go find the supervisors. So it was really cumbersome and really inefficient. A lot of time was spent on sort of that administration tasks of just getting the purchases done. And with that, we also had a lot of invoices that came into finance that we didn't know who had initiated the purchase. That paperwork had not yet made its way into our finance office. And so we have one accounts payable technician, and I want to say she was probably spending about 20 hours of her 35 hours chasing down and finding that paperwork to support the invoice that we received. So that was a huge challenge. So yeah, we wanted to find a system that would not only be helpful for finance, but also for the entire organization. The folks at Beanworks were they were so wonderful to work with. I mean, our first point of contact was Kevin, and he walked us through the Beanworks. And as I was sitting there, I was getting so excited because what I was seeing in this demo was our system digitized and becoming more efficient, and just answering all of those questions and solving all of those issues. But we like to call ourselves the Bean Dream Team. We had a staff attending a meeting up in Vernon, and they had it was a staff meeting, and Beanworks was on the agenda. And so she came back and she said, I had to take a video of this because when Beanworks came up, everybody in the room was like, we love Beanworks. And so, that was such a great affirmation back to the finance team that this is working, and it's really working for the entire agency. People don't have to spend that time running around. It's all electronic. And so it's just been a tremendous game changer for our organization. We went looking for a system that wasn't just about the finance department, it was about the agency. And so by implementing a system that's electronic and digitized and the approvals are all done, it allows our staff to spend more time in program rather than spending the time doing those administrative tasks. And so the vision for that is just to eliminate, not eliminate, but to really reduce the amount of time that they have to spend in an office doing this or running around, and so that they can spend the time with the kids. And then I guess for the finance team, as I mentioned before, Terry Lynn, who's our accounts payable tech, was spending probably close to 20 hours of her week chasing down paper from all across. And she literally already is saving time. She's probably saving right now about 2 days a week. And with that, the goal and the vision for Terry Lynn is that she will then be able to connect more with our vendors and create those vendor partnerships. It's basically taking a system that probably took about, from start to finish, probably close to 2 weeks. It's cutting it down to about 3 days. It's phenomenal. It's a game changer.
These are just two of the case studies we've done this year. I'd like to continue going through this process with Bass and finding more to evangelize the product, because it's a solution that works. And specific to this use case, it's just, sorry, I had something I thought of during her speech, but we'll leave it at that. Dan, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you.
I'm just going to finish off with a couple slides, but your job's done here.
Thank you.
Cheers. So with regards to the next slide here, let's go back a bit. So we sometimes use the term 360-degree AP solution because the solution is really a coverage across the whole AP workflow. So So when we're talking about it, we got the purchase order module, expense module, invoice module, and payments. The only module that's required is the invoice module for the actual automation of your data entry and invoices and approvals on that side. But the other ones are all optional. You can add them on from day one or any time in the future. Yeah, you can start to adopt different aspects. But the key is that we have the coverage there ready to go if you need it. With purchase orders, we're integrated with Sage, so you can do the full three-way match within our solution. Even if you're creating those purchase orders and receivings in Sage, we're going to pull that in so you can do it all in the cloud and be accessible from anywhere. With expenses, you can just bring in your expense reports from Excel or whatever you're doing today as employees and start snapping pictures of your receipts like I did the other night and just upload those into our solution for expense reporting. And then payments is another one where you can continue working with Orchid EFT, the guys right before me, if you're like your payments process and it's sufficient for you, or you can start to take that into the same workflow and start to automate that here with Sage AP Automation. Not sure what happened there. Just before I jump into some Q&A, I just got one more slide on the benefits. I'll just talk to those here. First of all, you're going to eliminate the data entry. We typically say around 83% of the data entry will be eliminated through us, but there's potentially an opportunity for more or less, but either way, 60% of the time that's spent on AP is entering the data. So even if you can get a good chunk of that eliminated and then get all the workflow that comes along with it, it's a huge benefit and easy to build ROI around. And then you're going to be able to create the PO process for your organization, which is a benefit for a number of reasons, and then automatically be able to match those POs to your invoices and receivings within one platform that is super easy to do because it sits right next to each other. You're also going to have a full audit trail. So when you think of like the process we're going through from beginning to end, in our archive tab, it's going to sit there all in one view for your auditors or yourself to go back on. A lot of our clients use it as like their reference tool just to find out what happened with a given vendor because it's much easier to use our search function within our platform than looking through Sage at times. So it's another great benefit there. And then finally, we've got the approval channels by all the modules, so you can set them up as complex or as light as you need to, but just to ensure that you're not paying any invoices unnecessarily. And then you're going to be able to simplify payments at the end of the day using our workflow. One key benefit, though, that we've already talked about is the unlimited users and the unlimited entities that are available. So you're going to be able to pull multiple Sage 300 databases into one view. And it's of great benefit for a lot of clients that have that multi-entity structure or a lot of different users like we saw with Boys and Girls Club of the Okanagan. That I am going to close off. I've got some contact emails here. Our booth is right over there. You can get in touch with us directly, but I would recommend just touching base with your BAS account manager, as they're just as versed with the solution as I am for the most part, and they can line you up with the demo or whatever you need to go next to take the next step with us in the discovery process. But I'd love to chat with you guys here at BAS Connect while we're in person, and yeah, with that, I'll take any questions that anyone does have around the solution, but I'm done here.
You mentioned it's matching the AP and purchase order. Is it matching the receiving too?
Yeah, so we pull in the receivings too. It's a click away from the purchase order invoice that sits side by side. We can show you that. You just pull up the receivings and match it up. I like to.
Yeah. Can the invoice with multiple tax lines be accommodated? Like you have GST and PST in two separate lines in an invoice?
Yeah, we can accommodate the PST and GST in Canada. Yeah, but we dive into some discovery on that because our AEs can explain that in more detail.
It is applicable for other Sage all product or Sage 50, Sage other?
Yeah, so except for X3, which we can kind of integrate with on import-export, we integrate with Sage 50, 300, 100, Intact, and other ERPs too outside.
the cost benefit analysis, like the cost that is involved in getting this system. How is the subscription to be paid? How does that work?
So the pricing, as I've said, unlimited users, right? So the pricing is based on transactional, like number of invoices. So if you have 100 invoices, it could be closer to like $400 a month. If you have 1,000 invoices, it could be closer to, $1,200 or more a month. So it just goes up by the volume, but your price per invoice actually goes down as you go up. So it's a transactional solution, but the ROI is based on the number of invoices, because each invoice in itself, you bring it down to like a cost of under $3 per invoice, from what the average industry rate per invoice on a manual AP process is more like $15 per invoice. So the ROI continues to build as you increase your invoice count. Yeah.